I want to talk more about the leadership, because the leadership of the Liberal Party is absolutely critical. And if you're in the Liberal Party and you don't understand how important this is to the people of Australia, if you think it's some sort of tricky thing to advance yourself or get yourself on, or the focus groups or your mates through the investor group or whatever, you're making a huge mistake. If you get this wrong, you really let Australians down. You let them down last weekend. Don't let them down again this week. Just going to say a couple of things. Campbell Newman has sent me a text talking about Sussan Ley, and I'll quote Campbell Newman from when he was... So I'll just, the Federal Environment Minister, this is talking about Sussan Ley, a Federal Environment Minister that overturned Campbell's high-value project that his government had approved for Cape York. It was meant to provide real jobs and economic opportunity for Aboriginal people in remote communities, and Sussan Ley was led by the nose by Canberra bureaucrats in her department and killed the project using the environmental protection, etc., etc. Absolutely disgraceful in Campbell Newman's opinion. He goes on with some other things as well. I'd just like to say about Angus Taylor, I thought pretty much the only highlight during the election campaign with the various debates and so on was how Angus Taylor took the fight up to Jim Chalmers. I thought it was a very impressive debate. I thought that was one of the few highlights.
Sorry, but can I just inject a little bit of, you know, we all just watched the same campaign here, and just a moment ago we were talking about the economic policies, you know, that the Liberals brought to the table. And I'm sorry, but you know, he was the shadow treasurer, and what did we have in the way of prosecuting a real case for tax cuts and smaller governments? You know, they got all muddled up on working from home and cashiering public servants. That was it. And then you get a little bit of a fuel excise tax cut. They really, really, really need to get their act together in terms of really figuring out.
Policy,
there was a chart in The Economist this week. They worked out that Australia has more public service per capita than just about any other developed nation.
And it was a year ago that I had Angus Taylor at a Liberal Party event, which I hosted. It was a debate where he clearly made the point that it would be Liberal Party policy to cut the number of public servants in Canberra by 36,000, and that was a commitment. Now, you can blame Angus Taylor and you can blame Sussan Ley. Both of them were deputies in the election campaign, but the blame has to sit with the leader, Peter Dutton, and the HQ that ran that. Yes, of course, you're right to criticise. You're right to criticise, but any criticism, I'm afraid, that the Liberal Party have to be recognise that any criticism of Angus Taylor, they can also apply to Sussan Ley, who was the deputy during that election.
Of course, but I think in my mind, Angus Taylor's performance during the election campaign was underwhelming, to put it mildly. But if the choice is between him and Sussan Ley, well, it's Angus Taylor every day of the week and twice on Sundays. It's no question. If you want to rebuild the party, if you want to actually have any chance of holding Labor accountable for the next 3 years and actually being in a position to take a policy platform that's sound to the next election, you need to start today. You can't just write off the next couple of years and say, oh, well, we'll have a different leader by the time the election comes around.
We'll have a review into what went wrong, and we'll do this, and we'll do that.
You need to start
Get on the
today.
ground running, exactly.
And I think I'm going to be talking to Jacinta Nampijinpa Price shortly, but Angus Taylor, Jacinta Price, that's the team to rebuild the Liberal Party.
That's what excites the Liberal Party, the voters out there, coalition voters out there. There is no question. I don't know what your two inboxes are like, but my inbox has been flooded with people going, yes, please, we want Matt Canavan, we want Jacinta Price, and we want, as you said, we'd rather Angus Taylor any day over Sussan Ley.
You know what's going to happen if we have...
There you go. If you want,
there's a real
don't listen to your focus
though.
groups, listen to the actual people of Australia. That's who you should be listening to.
But there's a real danger, though. I mean, think about what happens if Sussan Ley does get up as leader, and let's think about what happens then if Matt Canavan gets up as leader in the National Party.
Breaks.
What happens to the coalition?
The coalition.
Great question.
How can that coalition possibly hold? Only last year, Sussan Ley was attacking Matt Canavan over that gender wage gap report, because Matt Canavan and Alex Antic and others very smartly actually had a look at it, saw the massive flaws in the entire report, suggesting that, you know, women are being systematically discriminated against, doing exactly the same roles, the same hours, but getting paid less, when we know that's not happening when you actually look at what the data represents. And that's just one issue. But just about on every consequential issue, James, I think there's a split between those two.
There's a very big difference, but, there's also a real worry because within the Liberal Party, and I know coming out of New South Wales and the moderate wing of the party here in New South Wales, there is a push on to make sure that whoever the leader is basically abandons any difference between the Liberals and the Labour Party on energy and says we will just go along with Labour's targets and take that issue entirely off the table as a point of difference. Now, big renewables investors will do very, very well off of that. The rest of us, not so much. And that's why we need that point of difference on energy, because energy is just a transfer of wealth
can I just quickly...
to these... go.
No, I'll just pick up on James.
Please.
100% correct, and we will know on Tuesday. If the Liberal Party go for Sussan Ley and ignore the opportunity of Angus Taylor and Jacinta Price, you, the Liberal Party, have shown that you are completely in the pocket of the renewables investors. You're no different to the Teals. That is what you will prove to us on Tuesday. It's up to you. You either support the people of Australia or you support your renewables investors' mates in the hedge funds. Your choice, but we are watching and we will not let you forget that choice ever.
And let's not forget also, because the Liberals have now lost 2 elections embracing net zero. Before that, they had a climate change election. They won the unwinnable election because they said we are going to prioritise affordability and reliability over emission targets. Now, they won that debate. That wasn't that long ago. That was not that long ago, 2019. Since then, we saw Scott Morrison last time...
He did a U-turn, he betrayed it. I'll be talking about that shortly. But yeah, absolutely, you're 100% Rita. And this is it, Liberal Party. All eyes of Australia are on you. You back your renewables investors, mates, and we will never, ever, ever let you forget it. So make the right choice.